What if I told you the perfect crime was almost pulled off? Not with high-tech gadgets, but with Halloween masks and a janitor's key. This is the story of the Brink's job of 1950, a heist so audacious it was dubbed the crime of the century. If you love tales of intricate heists and old-school detective work, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because you won't want to miss a single detail. Boston, Massachusetts, 1950. The city was a post-war hub of activity, and at its financial heart was the Brink's armored car depot on Prince Street. This wasn't just any building, it was a fortress, believed to be impenetrable. It housed the cash flow of eastern Massachusetts, a constant river of money from businesses, banks, and racetracks. To the public, Brink's was a symbol of absolute security. But to one man, Anthony Fats Pino, it was the ultimate challenge. Pino wasn't a mastermind in the cinematic sense. He was a small-time operator with big dreams and an eye for detail. He noticed something everyone else overlooked. The routine. Every day, the same trucks, the same routes, the same guards. He began to wonder, just how secure was this fortress? Really? For nearly 2 years, Pino and his crew meticulously cased the joint. They weren't just watching, they were studying. They learned the employees' schedules, memorized the alarm systems, and noted every delivery. Their base of operations was a humble tenement building right across the street. From their windows, they had a perfect vantage point. They timed the guards' rounds with a stopwatch. They saw which doors were used most frequently and, crucially, which were not. The planning was incredibly patient. They would sneak into the building after hours, not to steal anything, but simply to learn. They disassembled the locks on 5 different doors, one by one, and had duplicate keys made by a locksmith. Then, they would carefully reassemble the locks, leaving no trace. Imagine the nerve it took to be inside the very vault they planned to rob, knowing a single mistake could land them in prison for decades. They even managed to temporarily disable the alarm on the vault door, practicing over and over until they could do it in the dark. The crew Pino assembled was a classic who's who of Boston's underworld. Men like Joseph Specs O'Keefe, a tough guy known for his temper, and Stanley Guscusi. There were 11 men in total, each with a specific role. They weren't a slick, well-oiled machine. They were a group of gritty, determined individuals bound by a shared, audacious goal. They rehearsed their plan more than a dozen times, walking through the steps, synchronizing their watches, ensuring every man knew his job down to the second. Their disguise was simple but effective. Navy blue pea coats, Cuffarese caps, and rubber Halloween masks. They wanted to be seen not as individuals, but as a faceless, intimidating unit. The evening of January 17th, 1950, was cold and drizzly. The stage was set. As the city bustled with its evening commute, the 11 men slipped into the Brink's building using their coped keys. The timing was perfect. The last of the day's money had arrived, but the night staff hadn't yet begun their final counts. Inside the counting room, 5 unsuspecting Brink's employees were going about their work. Suddenly, the door burst open. The masked figures swarmed in, brandishing revolvers. "This is a stick-up," one of them growled. Not a single shot was fired. The crew moved with cold, practiced efficiency. They ordered the employees to lie face down on the floor, then bound their hands and mouths with adhesive tape and rope. They weren't violent. They were professionals executing a plan. While some members stood guard, others went straight for the open vault. They knew exactly where to look. They stuffed canvas bags with a mountain of cash, checks, and money orders. The sheer volume was staggering. They ignored the bags of coins, focusing only on the paper currency. In less than 30 minutes, it was over. The crew vanished as quietly as they had arrived, leaving the bound employees in an empty vault behind. They had walked out with over $1.2 million in cash and another $1.5 million in securities. In today's money, that's nearly $30 million. They had breached the unbreachable fortress without firing a single shot and without leaving a single fingerprint. The aftermath was chaos. When the police arrived, they were met with a scene of disbelief. The city of Boston was stunned. The nation was captivated. The FBI, led by the legendary J. Edgar Hoover, descended on the case with full force. It was dubbed the crime of the century, and the pressure to solve it was immense. The investigation became the largest in the FBI's history up to that point. Thousands of interviews were conducted, and every known criminal in the Boston area was scrutinized. But the investigators had nothing. The crew had been ghosts. They left no fingerprints, no weapons, no clues. The only evidence was the rope used to tie the employees and a chauffeur S-cap left behind in the getaway truck, which they later found abandoned. It was a dead end. For years, the case went cold. The authorities were stumped. They had a list of usual suspects, including Pino's crew, but no evidence to connect them to the crime. The gang had made a pact of silence, agreeing to lay low and not touch the money for 6 years, until the statute of limitations ran out. This pact was their greatest strength, but it would also become their ultimate undoing. Living a normal life while sitting on a fortune is harder than it sounds. The pressure mounted. Greed, paranoia, and internal squabbles began to eat away at the crew's solidarity. Specs O'Keefe, in particular, was growing impatient and reckless. He felt he wasn't getting his fair share and started causing trouble, attracting unwanted attention from both the law and other mobsters. The other members of the gang grew wary of him, fearing he would bring them all down. The breaking point came in 1956, just days before the statute of limitations was set to expire. In a dispute over money, another member of the crew hired a hitman to take out O'Keefe. The attempt failed, but O'Keefe was badly wounded and finally understood that his former partners wanted him gone for good. Facing a long prison sentence on other charges and fearing for his life, Specs O'Keefe did the one thing they had all sworn never to do. He talked. He sang like a canary, giving the FBI everything. He named every member of the crew, detailed the years of planning, and described the heist in minute detail. With his testimony, the house of cards collapsed. The FBI finally had the break they needed. In January 1956, just 6 days before the statute of limitations would have made them all free men, 8 members of the gang were arrested, tried, and convicted. All received life sentences. The perfect crime had unraveled at the last possible moment, not because of brilliant detective work, but because of human nature. Greed and betrayal. The Brink's job remains a legendary tale in the annals of crime. It was a masterpiece of planning and patience, a throwback heist that relied on old-fashioned cunning rather than modern technology. It showed that even the most secure fortress can be vulnerable to human ingenuity and persistence. But it also serves as a cautionary tale about the corrosive power of greed and the fragility of trust among thieves. The crime of the century was almost perfect, but in the end, the bonds of loyalty were no match for the weight of millions. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most fascinating heists. What do you think was the crew's biggest mistake? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you resubscribe for more incredible true crime stories. We'll see you in the next one.